Hello, Heide here. Be sure to pause the next slide to refresh your memory on how to navigate this webinar. Remember, you can also go on the English Forward website and download the entire PowerPoint deck in case you want to see the slides in print. And here we are, ready to tackle Module 4, working with students who are new to literacy in any language. You already know that some of your students come to you with little English, but a fair amount of education in the home country, while others may only have an elementary school education or may never have gone to school at all. These students are commonly known as ESL literacy students. Literacy students may not be comfortable with print and may not be able to keep up in a regular class where the teacher writes on the board and uses printed handouts as a matter of course. Individual attention from a tutor just like you, who focuses on teaching basic literacy skills along with English, is often just what a low literate student needs. In this module, we want to start with a bit of background so you can better understand the characteristics of students who are new to literacy. We'll stress the difference between being able to read and write in English and being able to read and write in any language. And that's a huge difference, as you will see. We will then offer you lots of tips on teaching literacy, how to deal with the alphabet, for example. And just a hint, don't start your lessons with the alphabet with low literate students. We'll give you some examples of how to teach phonics and decoding skills. But don't worry, if you're new to teaching reading, we'll include some more holistic ways of teaching literacy as well. So let's start, but not with the alphabet. Here's a quick overview of the different sections in this module. We're excited about introducing you to the whole part whole approach. ESL literacy students have many strengths and should not be defined by their weaknesses in literacy. Many have overcome hardships we cannot even imagine. Some never had the chance of an education or went to school for only a few years. They may have moved from place to place, and interruptions in schooling may have made it difficult to learn to read and write beyond the basics. These students will need a great deal of confidence building as they acquire the literacy skills everyone else seems to have. In this module, we'll start with a bit of background so you can know something about the characteristics of students who are new to literacy. We'll stress the difference between not being able to write and read in any language and not being able to read and write in English, and that's a huge difference. We will then have lots of tips for you on how to deal with the alphabet. A hint, don't start with the alphabet. And how to teach decoding skills. If you are new to teaching reading, don't worry. We'll include some more holistic ways of teaching literacy as well. Here are a few things to keep in mind as you think about ESL literacy students. Go ahead and pause that slide so you get a chance to read it all. As you tutor students with minimal schooling, it's important to remember that literacy is not a dichotomous skill. You are not non-literate one day and literate the next day, or even the next month or the next year. After all, how literate do you feel when it comes to reading the instructions on a fancy new camera or understanding a scientific article outside of your field? Now imagine doing any one of these things in a language you are trying to learn. Levels of literacy or even levels of non-literacy exist on a continuum, from pre-literate to non-literate to low literate and finally to literate, more or less. Let's have a quick look at these levels of literacy and what they imply for teaching literacy students. As the next slide appears, pause the video and consider these levels. Think of the students you have tutored. What were their levels and what were their needs? Remember that the slide deck is also available on the English Forward website. You may want to print up this chart as a handy reference when you observe your student to see what she can and cannot do with print. What does it mean to be pre-literate? Here's a bit of background on the Hmong, a genuinely pre-literate group. Years ago, thousands of refugees from the mountains of Laos were resettled in the U.S. because their families were in danger of getting killed. The Hmong used cash crops and learned what they needed to learn without a written language. There were no schools. Just imagine what it must have been like to be uprooted from your home and country and find yourself in a literacy-based society where nothing is familiar, people don't understand you, and you have no idea what it means to read. The students you tutor right now may not be pre-literate, but you may meet other refugees who never had a chance to go to school. If you were in charge of resettlement, how might you help these families? What role would a literacy program play in that effort? This is one of my favorite frustrations. Tests an individual who confuse the inability to read and write in English with the inability to read and write in any language. Actually, the only way to know for sure if a student who is new to English can read and write is to do a quick literacy assessment in the native language. But if that's not an option, try the strategies on the next slide. Pause the slide and visualize the steps. What strategies are you using right now to determine literacy? Would any of the steps on the slide work for you? What about students whose language uses a non-Roman alphabet? Are they literacy students? Not really, because they are, after all, literate, just not literate in English. Remember, you only need to learn to read one time, so students who are educated in any language can transfer these skills into reading in a second language. So if your student can read Russian, Greek, or Arabic, she will not need the same kind of basic literacy work that a student who has never gone to school needs. The same is true of students who are literate in Chinese or another language that uses symbols to write. These students will have to learn the English alphabet, but that shouldn't take too long, especially if the student has received a solid education in the home country. So how about the students you tutor? Are any of them literate in another alphabet? Do they use a language that uses symbols instead of letters? Here are a few more points about students whose language uses a different alphabet. One of the best ways of teaching students who have no literacy or limited schooling is to use an approach called whole, part, whole. The work of LESLA, an international organization that is focused on low literate second language learners, bears this out. Why are we supporting this approach? Remember that learning to read in another language as an adult is a slow and complex process that may take years. Since the student you tutor may only be with you for a few weeks or a few hours, it's important that he becomes successful at recognizing everyday print and writing a few things he can be proud of right from the start. Students will require more detailed knowledge about the alphabet and decoding by and by. If you are new to the whole part whole approach, pause this slide and consider the principles. You will notice that this approach to teaching literacy is very similar to the approach that the English Forward training system uses to teach communication skills. So here's an example of a sequence that exemplifies whole part whole. Can you imagine how this might work with a student you tutor? Here you can see how you can teach literacy using the English Forward lesson on personal information. Remember that you don't have to know the whole alphabet to learn to read and write. So starting with the letters in someone's name is a good starting point. You may remember the language experience approach from your training. It's one of the most successful ways to introduce ESL learners to literacy. This approach shows learners that what you can say can be written down, and what can be written down can be read. Teachers often use an experience such as a neighborhood walk or a field trip as an experience to write about. But you can also use a compelling picture as a prompt and ask your student to tell you what he sees, and then capture the description in writing. Here are some visual prompts from the book Material World by Peter Menzel and Charles Mann. You can use a book like that to help you create language experience lessons. When you ask students to tell a story based on a picture, or any story for that matter, it's important to model what you want the student to do. You might say, "This is what I see. I see 4 people on a bus, a man and a woman and 2 children. Maybe they're going to a market, but they don't look happy. What do you see?" Then keeping asking questions and write down the story as it emerges. Pause the video so you can go through in your mind of what the steps are in the language experience approach. Have you ever used it, and has it worked for you? We'll show you the approach in action on a video next. So here's the video. You will see a tutor using her laptop to show scenes on the screen. She models the story by starting with her own story and then invites the student to tell his story so she can capture it using word processing as a language experience story. I think it's a great idea to use a laptop because students can see their words appear in print right before their eyes. Many students also love to see their words typed up nicely because print looks so much more impressive than the childish handwriting they still use. In your program, do you have a chance to type up the stories that your students tell?
Alright, so today I wanted to show you a picture of the beach. This is Pensacola Beach, where I actually grew up. And here we have some water. Do you know what this body of water is called?
The ocean.
Yes. So when you go to the beach, you usually see the ocean, right? With water, and you've got sand here. And these birds here, have you ever seen these birds before?
No.
No? These are called seagulls. And they always had them there at Pensacola Beach. The seagulls would always try to get our food. So what is it called when the water moves in towards the sand like this?
I don't know.
You know? It's called the waves.
Mm.
Yeah, they crash into the sand and make that sound. And what kind of weather do we have in the sky here today? Is it stormy?
Sunny.
Sunny, yes. You always hope for a sunny day at the beach. Have you ever been to the beach?
Yes.
Really? So I want you to tell me a story about the time that you went to the beach. Can you think of a story that you would like to tell me?
I think so.
Okay. So what I want to do is I want you to tell me the story, and I will type it here on this Word document, and so that you can see the words that you're using to tell the story, and you can see them right here on the screen. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So make sure you tell it a little slowly so that I can get it all down. All right? Go ahead whenever you're ready.
The last day I went to the beach and my family to the beach. There was water and sand, and I bring a raft, and when I try to blow up it, the air go out of it. I builded a fort of sand, but my mean older brother stepped on and throwed water on, and it was destroyed. The sun was very hot, and my skin is very red today, and it itches.
Oh, do you still have sunburn then?
Yes.
So when your skin is red after you've been in the sun, it's called a sunburn. That hurts and it's itchy, huh?
Yes.
Okay. So you also have a mean older brother, huh? That sucks. I'm sorry that he destroyed your sandcastle. Did you get to build a new one?
No.
Maybe next time you go to the beach. Alright, so now that you see your story here written down, I want to read it back to you so that you can see the words that you used. Okay?
Okay.
So follow along. The last day, I went to the beach and my family to the beach. There was water and sand, and I bring a raft, and when I tried to blow up it, the air go out of it. I builded a fort of sand, but my mean older brother stepped on it and throwed water on, and it was destroyed. The sun was very hot, and my skin is very red today, and it itches. All right. That's a really good story. I'm very impressed with your storytelling skills, but I am sorry about your skin and your sandcastle. So now I want you to think about whether you would change any words in your story. Can you think of anything that you might change?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well, if I told this story, I would say yesterday or on Saturday. So do you know what day you went to the beach?
Saturday.
It was Saturday? Okay. So you could say something like Saturday or on Saturday, I went to the beach. So your family was with you, right?
Yes.
So you could say, on Saturday, I went to the beach with my family. I'm going to show you what that looks like. On Saturday, I went to the beach with my family. Look good?
Yes.
So what are your thoughts after watching this video? Let these questions guide your thinking, and I hope you get a chance to share your ideas with others. We all know that proficient readers have good decoding skills. Some adult English learners develop these skills over time by reading and writing everyday print and paying attention to letters and sounds. Some adults benefit from explicit phonics instruction. But all we know from a national study on different approaches for low-literate ESL learners is that a phonics-based approach is generally not more successful than other approaches to teaching ESL literacy. But if you have a background in reading or like to teach phonics, we offer you some ideas next for a teaching sequence that includes phonics work as part of whole, part, whole. So stay tuned. Pause the video and consider these ideas. Do they make sense to you? Would you like to try them? Can you imagine integrating them into your tutoring? Here's an example of a consonant chart that you could create after a student recognizes some words by sight. Keep adding words to the chart that follow the pattern. And keep in mind that single consonants are easy for most students. Consonant clusters are hard for most non-English speakers. The point is to help your student to recognize words in print. Don't get hung up on pronunciation at this point. Pause the video and consider the ideas on this slide. These are ideas for teaching short and long vowels in a contextualized way. See if this might work for you. What do you think? So really, all you have to remember is whole, part, whole. So here we are. We leave you with a couple of resources. We've included links to 2 videos. One is a longer lesson that is part of an entire class, and the second one just shows language experience in action. We also included references to the study that showed that a phonics-based approach isn't more successful than a more general approach to teaching ESL literacy. And we have a link to LESLA, the international organization that focuses on second language learners new to literacy. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time.